Hi, I'm Cassie, and today I'm reading part of one of my books that I wrote like a cozy bedtime story. Nothing fancy, I'm not a professional voice actor, I'm not an audiobook reader, I'm an author. And I want to share with you my story how I would read it. My dog might bark, my kids might laugh in the background, I might laugh at my own characters. And this is simply me hanging out with you, enjoying part of a good story. Yeah, are you ready? Let's jump right in. Hey everyone, thank you for coming to A Little Reading Time with Cassie. I'm so excited to read you the first chapter of my book, Just Another Christmas. This is just a standalone, cute, kind of Hallmarky, fairy tale-ish vibe story, and I absolutely love it. So I'm excited to share this with you and give you a taste of this book by reading you the first chapter. In this book, we have two characters. One is named Christian and the other one is Meg. And this book is told from Meg's point of view. So we're going to go ahead and get started with chapter 1. All right, so this is Just Another Christmas by Cassandra Shields, chapter 1. The low hum of Christmas music coming from the next cubicle provided a mild form of annoying interference. No matter how hard Meg tried, she could not tune out the scratchy and slightly fuzzed Christmas music from whatever contraption Hope had set up in her space. Meg looked out the window at the gathering clouds and sighed. With a new snowstorm on the horizon and Christmas only 2 weeks away, she didn't have any right to beg for the music to stop, but it made it hard to work. Shaking off her annoyance, Meg tapped her favorite red pen against her bottom lip as she reread the short memo. As a writer, it sounded okay, but something didn't feel quite right as a proofreader. She could feel that something was off, and yes, feel was the correct word. She often relied on her gut to tell her if something sounded or felt right in the articles, blog posts, and memos she proofread for work. However, that didn't mean she knew what was incorrect right away. Time to sleuth it out of you, she murmured to the paper in front of her. She moved her long, dark hair behind her shoulder and concentrated on the meaning of each word. It took a few more seconds before she circled a word in the middle of the memo. It was an okay word, but it threw off the rest of the paragraph's groove. With a quick look at the thesaurus, she found a word that fit better and made the change on paper and her computer before sending it to her editor-in-chief. One more done. Meg pushed her chair back and stretched her arms before she pulled open a new project. It was short, only a couple of paragraphs. She glanced up at the clock. 4:30. Good. She had enough time to finish this one before heading home for the day. Attention, everyone! Attention! Called a sing-song voice from the front of the crowded cubicle room. Meg turned to see Carol Kentworth, the company event planner, waving for everyone's attention. She wore a bright green Christmas elf costume that, paired with her care orange hair, actually looked good on her. Carol waited until everyone quiet and looked in her direction. You are all cordially invited to the company's annual Christmas party in 2 weeks on Friday, December 23rd. To get you jazzed about it, we have set up a secret Santa sign-up in the lobby for interested people, and an Evite will show up in your inbox shortly. I'm glad to announce a cubicle decorating contest to add to the festivities. We'll choose a winner the morning of the party, and the prize, she fanned her face. The prize is a seat next to Mr. MaKenna himself at the party for the dinner and $100 cash. A collective sound of excitement rumbled through the room. Meg's coworker, Hope, who sat at the cubicle next to Meg, shot to her feet, her hands clasped. A second later, she whirled around and faced Meg. I am going to claim that prize. I love the enthusiasm, Carol called over the murmurs flooding the room. Let's cue the holiday spirit. Suddenly, through the room's speakers, the first Noel started playing. Meg suppressed a groan. She wasn't a Grinch, but music with words made it hard to concentrate on her work. It looked like she'd need to bring in her noise-canceling headphones for the next 2 weeks. Hope let out a little whoop and turned off her scratchy version of holiday tunes. Carol moved a chair to the hall doorway leading to the elevator and tied a sprig of mistletoe to the top of the frame. A few guys whooped and winked at a few of their coworkers. Carol bowed before heading toward the elevator, probably to bring her news to the next floor. Shaking her head, Meg turned back to her computer, only to find it performing a mandatory reboot. Groaning, she picked up her water bottle and headed to the fountain in the break room. She filled it up at the awkward angle of the water fountain's arched stream and tried to imagine how she'd make it through the Christmas holiday. Two of her coworkers walked in and opened the fridge. "So do you honestly think the chocolate strawberries are too much?" "It's like you're planning the proposal for him. Go simple. Let him fill in the details of the night. He needs to feel like he's the one who asked you, not that you nudged him along." Okay, I'm just so nervous." The girls giggled and grabbed a snack and returned to their desks without looking at Meg. A normal thing. She hadn't tried to make friends with anyone at work. She didn't have time for that. The whole point of working at a nonprofit was to do good for others, not build a social life. That is why she spent so much of her time ensuring every word on every project that came to her desk was perfect. What they did mattered too much to mess up. She capped her water bottle and looked at the clock. 15 minutes to 5. If her computer didn't take forever, she might squeeze in a few more minutes of work before leaving for the day. She raced back to her computer to find it taking its time. She groaned. The clock on the wall in her computer began to race against time. "Come on, I only need a few more minutes to finish." Hope leaned over the short wall between their desks. "I'm shopping for a dress for the party." She thrust her phone under Meg's nose. "Which dress do you think Mr. MaKenna will like better?" All the dresses on the page needed about 8 more inches of fabric to be considered any sort of modest. "Hope, if Terry sees us shopping online at work, he'll fire us both." Hope harumphed. "He won't fire us for something so trivial. Not if I'm going to be the future Mrs. MaKenna." She returned to her seat, but instead of pulling up a project, she continued scrolling through dresses on her phone. Meg sighed. When Terry felt upset, she'd seen more than one person fired for reasons that hardly made sense. She needed this job and wasn't about to risk it for something frivolous. At 4:58 p.m., her computer finally finished and let her get on. Meg opened her document back up and continued proofreading it. The company didn't like overtime, but 10 or 15 minutes usually didn't matter. She needed to get this last one done. She read the final paragraph and crinkled her nose. It sounded awful. She copied and pasted it into a new document and furiously typed a new one that kept the same idea but made it so it flowed smoothly. Her eyes were on nothing but her project. Finally, she sat back, satisfied she'd done all she could do on her last project of the day. She looked up at the clock to find it after 5:30. Crap! She quickly logged off and went to clock out. Terry would probably yell at her tomorrow for staying late again. He'd likely make her leave early on Friday to make up for it. She didn't mean to do it. She liked to see things through to the end. She raced into the hallway right after her smartwatch binged. "Don't forget to pick up Marigold." Meg's eyes widened. She'd completely forgotten about picking up her sister's cat. The vet closed at 6. The elevator stopped on her floor for just a moment, but before she could reach it, the door started to close, almost like someone had hit the close button. Oh no, she had to get to the vet. She didn't have time to wait for the elevator to return. She darted into the elevator right before the door shut, bumping into the guy who stood inside. "Whoa, there," he said, reaching out to steady her. "I'm so sorry." Face burning, Meg caught her balance and moved the few steps available away from him. Everything felt off kilter since Carol came in and interrupted the end of the workday, and this was only proof. This and forgetting Marigold. He held his hands up, his shiny black briefcase in hand. "It's fine." "In a hurry?" "Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm in a bit of a hurry, but I should have waited for the elevator to come back up." Meg tucked a long strand of her dark brown hair behind her ear and bit her lip. "Yeah, probably." He shook his head, his dark brown hair not moving an inch from its perfectly gelled shape. "Don't worry about it. No harm done." He pulled out his phone from his nice gray business suit and started scrolling. Meg rolled her eyes and leaned against the far wall. Great, now she'd made a fool of herself in front of this classy-looking guy who could have lived on the cover of a magazine. He must work on the 6th floor with the bigwigs. The elevator ding signaled her release, and she shot forward right when he did. Her elbow knocked into his, sending his briefcase flying. "Oh no!" She reached for it again, but he grabbed her arm and stopped her from rushing toward the case. "I got it." "Don't worry about it. I should have let you go first. I already knew you were in a hurry." "Thanks, sir, for letting me ride down with you." Man, could she sound more awkward? Maybe she should try talking to people more often instead of keeping to herself. He laughed. "I don't think I could help it." He held out his hand. "Christian MaKenna." Mr. MaKenna, like the Mr. MaKenna, like her boss's boss, the guy who started the nonprofit a few years ago. Wow, it's nice to meet you. I love your nonprofit. The work we do for education is so important. He smiled. I'm glad to hear it. Have a nice evening, Miss. Oh, I'm Meg McKenna. I mean, Ellis. You're Mr. McKenna. I'm Ellis. Meg. Yikes. She couldn't have made more of a fool of herself if she tried. There was no recovery from this awkward meeting with the guy who ran the company. If only there were a hole nearby, she would have dived into it headfirst and hidden until Mr. McKenna left. He smirked, showing he definitely caught her slip. Great. She didn't need Hope's help to get fired. She was about to accomplish that all on her own. I work on the 4th floor with all the writers. I'm a copywriter and a proofreader. Duh, of course, he knew that. That is where she had jumped in the elevator. This is why she didn't talk to guys. Her cheeks went hot, but lucky for her, he didn't seem to notice. He walked forward and picked up his briefcase. Good night, Miss Ellis. He nodded slightly, pulled his phone back out, and walked into the parking garage. Well, that could have gone about 1,000 times better. Meg shook her head and took a deep breath to calm her racing nerves before she followed him into the garage. Meg walked slowly to her car to avoid any more awkward conversation with Mr. McKenna. However, she couldn't help watching him walk to his black sports car. It looked like a modest Corvette. She knew things were going well for the company. He could have ridden around in a limo, a Maserati, or a Ferrari, something that said "Big Time Boss" in bold letters. But he didn't. She smiled at the thought that he might take his nonprofit to heart. Maybe he invests back into his own company and puts more into what he believes in than buying his own stuff. She liked thinking she worked for a guy like that, even if she needed to avoid him at all costs from now on. Opening her car door, a nice little Sentra, she groaned when she saw the clock. She had 15 minutes to get to the vet. If it wasn't Friday and she risked the cat getting locked in until Monday, she wouldn't have worried about hurrying. Tossing her stuff inside, she pulled out quickly and headed to the ramp that led to the exit. A black sports car pulled up at the same time she did. Could this day get any more awkward? She waved for him to go first, but the car didn't move. Maybe he wanted to wait for her. She started moving forward at the same time he did. Slamming on her brakes, she again motioned for him to go first. The window rolled down, and Mr. McKenna, his face showing a tight smile, gestured to the ramp. Thank you, she called. I have to pick up my sister's cat. I'm so sorry. I'm normally not like this. Gah. Did that sound like the kind of flimsy excuse someone would say to explain their bad behavior? Probably. Today was so not her day. She pulled in front of him and drove toward the parking garage exit, her face on fire. Okay, from now on, I'll avoid him for all eternity or die trying. That is, if she wanted to keep the job she loved. That is the first chapter of Just Another Christmas. It is a silly, fun, lighthearted romance that I know I absolutely adore, and I'm so excited to share this first chapter with you. If you're interested in reading the rest of the story, I have links below for Amazon, and it is also available on many other platforms as well. I hope that you're having a good reading time and that you'll join me again for a little reading time with Cassie. Thanks so much. Bye.